ARM-based laptops have been available for a few years now, but they haven't been very good, and Samsung is trying to change that with its new Galaxy Book S. And in this video, I will tell you both the good and the bad, along with what having a Snapdragon ARM chip instead of an Intel or AMD CPU means in the real world. It's honestly a give and take, but there are a couple surprises that I found when using it that you absolutely have to know about if you're considering buying one. The laptop feels almost weightless in the hand. The difference is definitely noticeable compared to a MacBook Air. It's mostly plastic, but the chassis feels surprisingly rigid, and though it doesn't feel cheap, it also doesn't feel premium. We have two USB Type-C ports on the sides, and though there's no speed rating, I'm guessing it's USB 3.1 Gen 1. I was also able to connect my 4K display at full resolution, and it did accept the charge through USB Type-C, which is great. The base model comes with 256GB of SSD and also 8GB of RAM, which I'm glad that Samsung didn't cheap out on. We also have a built-in micro SD card slot that is designed for long-term storage, not just quickly transferring files. That is great because you can cheaply expand your laptop in the future. In that same slot, we have a SIM card for LTE web access anywhere that you go, but more on this in just a bit. Onto the display, after recently using many 16x10 and 3x2 laptops, going back to 16x9 is noticeable, but if you've been using wider aspect ratio screens all the time, I think you'll be just fine. Bezels are slim though, and the 1080p display looks better than many other brands I've used because it gets fairly bright with good contrast and good viewing angles. 1080p doesn't look bad on a 13-inch display, and on the plus side, it sips power compared to a 3 or a 4K display. It's also a touchscreen with good responsiveness, but I think because of the touchscreen layer, reflectivity is increased, which is the biggest issue with this and many other Windows laptops. If you're gonna be using it outside, do know that you will have to deal with some glare. Above the display, we have a 720p webcam that has fairly good quality, but makes video look darker than in real life. On the plus side, the audio quality is very good for a laptop mic. Here's a sample of the webcam and microphone quality. I was quite surprised. Most microphones that are in laptops like this really cut out the high frequencies, and this one retains that, and it sounds quite a bit better instead of sounding muffled. The speakers are ported to the side so they don't get blocked if it's on your lap. They do sound a bit thin, but are surprisingly loud, about 3 decibels louder than the MacBook Air. Go ahead and take a listen for yourself. While it doesn't sound great, it actually beats out some Windows laptops that are 2 or 3 times the size. The keyboard features large backlit chiclet keys, but they have low travel and they feel slightly mushy. In my hands-on comparison, I said that I might choose the MacBook Air's butterfly keyboard over this one, but after spending many hours typing, including this full review, I have to say that I changed my mind, but that's still not saying that much. The trackpad is also decent. It is plastic, but it's fairly easy to click. And though it doesn't match up to, say, a Surface Laptop 3, it is about average for Windows laptops. I do wish it was slightly taller, but it makes sense that it can't be because of how small this machine is. I'm glad that Samsung included a fingerprint scanner built into the power button, but I did notice having to retry my finger more often than with other laptops, but overall it does work and I'm glad that it's there. Now it's time to talk about the biggest news here, and that is the performance of the mobile Snapdragon ARM processor. It's an 8-core and raw performance smokes Apple's latest MacBook Air, but that's a benchmark and things change in the real world. Launching and navigating Windows 10 was fairly smooth overall, but it did get a few hangups that required hard reboots. Along with this, I had issues connecting external SSDs. One would connect but not show up, and the other would hang up on me when I'm trying to transfer files. I'm guessing that this is just a software bug because obviously you shouldn't have this issue. And along with this, there was one other big issue which I think is software related, but I'll mention that in just a bit when it's relevant. All the stock apps worked as normal, which is great, but many third-party apps wouldn't work. In fact, I couldn't test out the SSD speeds on this machine or the display color accuracy because the apps that I used and the alternatives that I looked for were not supported. If you want to do things like photo or video editing or other intensive productivity tasks, do not buy this laptop. That's because most Windows apps are designed for x86 CPUs from Intel or AMD, and they won't work, or at least work well, with cell phone processors like the ARM chip in this laptop at least for now. Sure, there may be some apps that are written or adapted to work and support ARM chips, or even older versions that can run emulated, like the old version of Photoshop that we tested out with the Surface Pro X, but the performance is terrible. An iPad with the new Photoshop app will be a much better experience. The Microsoft Store will actually tell you to upgrade your device when you select an app that isn't supported, which is laughable when you just dropped $1,000 on a laptop in 2020. The most frustrating thing is that I couldn't find a filter that only showed ARM supported apps, which is crazy considering these types of devices have been available for multiple years now, and Windows is really focused on ARM. This laptop works best with very popular, simpler productivity apps like the Office Suite and also web-based tasks, so thankfully Samsung is not targeting the certain demographic that needs hardcore apps and power. Now, support for ARM is also slowly rolling out, including new web browsers that offer snappier performance. The default Edge browser performance isn't terrible, it's definitely better than when I first tested out the Surface Pro X, but you do notice some lag when maximizing windows, scrubbing through videos, and even at times just typing. This is something that you won't notice with the $600 Pixelbook Go or Windows laptops. I ended up downloading Firefox that has native ARM support, and the performance was so much snappier, so I would highly recommend downloading it or another ARM-based browser. Even though some mobile ported games work like Asphalt 9, the performance is terrible. The graphics are technically capable, but I didn't see more than about 50% usage when playing, likely due to poor optimization, so if you want to play games, know that most simply will not work. So if we have so many limitations with ARM, then what's the point? Here are the three main ones: battery life, LTE, and heat. Because of the efficient 7nm design, there is no fan at all, so it's completely silent. The only time I felt any heat whatsoever was after watching 60 FPS 4K HDR video, which it actually played back perfectly smoothly thanks to dedicated graphics decoding, and it looked surprisingly good. Even then, it wasn't that hot, just slightly warm in one central spot. The biggest reason has gotta be the battery life. This thing is rated for a massive 25 hours of video playback. Now, I'm sure that that's at low screen brightness, but from my experience with it, for normal use, you can reasonably expect 16 to 20 hours of mixed use. That is absolutely crazy, being about twice that what the competition offers in real world use. Now, even though the battery life is great, I did have a related issue, that is battery drain when I'm not using it. My MacBook could be off for a week and it loses barely any battery, whereas the Galaxy Book S went from 85% down to 25% in less than 2 days of just being asleep. That reminds me more of smartphones than laptops. I'm not sure if this is a result of the always on, always ready design that Microsoft is pushing or something else. The last reason to go ARM is the support for a SIM card so that you can have data anywhere. Most laptops don't offer this, and it can be very convenient if you travel. It has a good gigabit modem, but I wasn't able to test it as it only supports Sprint and Verizon, and I have T-Mobile, but speed should be similar to the higher end Samsung phones. I could definitely see the Galaxy Book S in a business person's bag or briefcase, taking up almost no room and adding very little weight, and also doing a great job for email and web use. Having the freedom of not having to find Wi-Fi access has got to be great, and not only because many hotspots are so slow, but also for security reasons. Price-wise, it's also very reasonable, coming in at lower than a MacBook Air, a Dell XPS, or a Surface Laptop 3, plus the ability to increase it with micro SD. You can buy a good 512GB micro SD card with fairly reasonable speeds for only $95. I'll go ahead and drop a link for you guys down below. This is something that you can't do with the MacBook Air or with most Windows laptops. Even if they offer a card, they were gonna stick way out, which isn't practical for daily attached storage. So now, taking an honest, wide overall look at this machine, in most areas like the display, the keyboard, the speakers, trackpad, webcam, and the general performance of this Galaxy Book S, it is just good enough, but not really good in anything but the battery life. Because of that, I think that if you don't need the standout features like battery life and LTE, I would absolutely recommend one of two Ultrabook laptops that I linked down in the video description below. I think that most people will be happier with those options. And to answer the question in the title, no, I don't think that ARM is ready for the masses. Sure, it has gotten a lot better in the last year, but app selection is still limited, and apps are just starting to be more optimized for ARM. So unless most of your work is web-based, I would wait another year before giving an ARM laptop a chance. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below and click above to subscribe. If you guys want to see my comparison to the MacBook Air, click right over there. This has been Max with Max Tech, and I will see you in the next video.